Inshallah, everyone has been well. Today we are going to continue with our study of ninth worth. Inshallah, we'll have some more contribution today from some of you who perhaps can share. And as usual, Dr. Yamina will be leading the study, and we're welcome to join in with comments, questions. جزاكم الله خير دكتور يمينة. بسم الله.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah, everyone is doing better and better, and inshallah, we're performing our salat, the prescribed prayers with more and more awareness. So inshallah, we did go through reading the fifth point, which was the last point, but the longest also, in this ninth word, which is about the wisdom in the times of the prayer that are mentioned in few passages, in various passages in the Quran, not only as salat, but also the tasbihat has to be done in the morning, in the evening, in the middle of the day, at night. And so what is the wisdom in these special timings? We also saw at the beginning we learned about the meaning of ibadah and ubudiyah, the worshipping. The act of worship is ibadah, but the spirit, the state of being a worshipper is ubudiyah. And we saw how this particular ibadah, salat, includes the meaning, a concentrated meaning of all kinds of worships. And it revolves, or the author says, they are like the seed of salat are tasbih, hamd, or tahmid and takbir. So, and we saw how these three are very intimately interconnected. Tasbih is to proclaim God free from any faults, God's creation, therefore. And it starts with conscious rejection of shirk. It means we recognize, we know what is shirk, we recognize it, we reject it, and we affirm and confirm that God is above any element of shirk. He doesn't need anything to help him in his creation, which means that everything proceeds from one source only. Only one center, one being has control over everything and nothing else. Everything is under his control. And he provides for everything. He gives life to every living being and thing. And so all goodness and all what we need comes from God alone. Therefore, all thanks and praise belongs to God alone. That's the hamd, the shukr and hamd, the gratitude and thanks and praise. And he's the greatest, above anything anything. So that's the takbir, Allahu Akbar. That was the gist of the meaning of salat. And something that I remind ourselves from time to time, again, it is not that shirk is bad because it is prohibited, it is haram. It is prohibited because it is based on lies. Shirk is an illusion. It is based on illusions, on false beliefs, and shirk yields to much pain and misery. it is the cause behind our disconnection with our true being, and therefore with our connection to our sustainer, to the source of all what we need. So, and it is not that Tawheed is important because it's the main teaching of the Quran. Rather, Tawheed is the main teaching of the Quran because it is so significant, so crucial to fulfill the purpose of our life, to feel fulfilled, to find true, lasting peace and love and meaning and purpose. So Tawheed is the reality. It is the reality. Shirk is the opposite, is the illusion. It's the darkness. Tawheed is the light, is the reality that leads us to connect to the one and only source of all goodness, all help, all guidance, all light, all mercy, all love, everything we long for, and lastingly. So the salat, why is it important? It is the means to nurture our awareness of this reality, the reality of Tawheed and the reality of shirk being an illusion. And so performing salat consciously with this knowing, with this certainty, with this presence and awareness leads us to be in a state of reverence and deep gratitude and thanks and praise to our host, our maker, our creator, who sustains us in life here and now and provides for us. So the salat, the gist of worship and the gist of salat is that hamd, and hamd goes together with tasbih. There is no true hamd, no true gratitude to God and thankfulness and praising him with his beautiful names, unless we went through the tasbih, unless we understand the tasbihat, the glorification, the tasbih of the creation around us and within us. And the result of this is Allahu Akbar. So at the core, the tasbih and the takbir come together with this gratitude, thankfulness, praising God. And it's healing of the illusion of shirk that are at the core of all our problems, all our pain, suffering, fears, anxieties, anything that is not peace and joy is because of, you can trace it back to some shirky attitude that we are most probably unaware of. And that's why we are taught here how to cultivate this state of awareness through the salat constantly, at least 5 times a day. And if we do it consciously, then inshallah, we will nurture and sustain that awareness that will keep us away from the illusion and the lies and the false beliefs that are under the umbrella we call shirk, that cause all the darkness and the pain in our life. So, Bismillah, inshallah, I think we have someone is going to share, right, Isra?
Yes, I think some people had volunteered to share this week. I hope that's still the case, or the sisters are here. I think there were 2 sisters. Of course, our meetings are open to men and women, but happened to me too, sisters. So are you here? If you're here, would you like to share? Or anyone else who would like to share?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, Sarah.
Alhamdulillah, I had intended to keep the last passage that we read of the prayer in my weekly sort of review, but I was able to at least review Fajr and Dhuhr and Asr. And that just means like I was able to reread it once, those three, since our last gathering. And alhamdulillah, what has stuck out to me in my practical experience of change in my Fajr, and this is what is the take home for me. There's this beautiful truth of how extremely needy we are, how powerless we are, how we are in desperate need of so many things, and we can't guarantee just not even one. How the future is dark in a sense that we have no idea what the pages will unfold. And yet we find ourselves in a state of concern or worry about it. So all of those human conditions that Nursi rahimahullah so beautifully painted in the Fajr prayer, I am able to remember that and really channel that feeling in sajda, prostration. And it feels like it actually charges my prayer with so much more sincerity and peace at the same time. And in a way, like Dr. Yamina says, if we meditate in the morning, it sort of sets your tone for the day. I felt like being able to just channel this message in Fajr gave me a foundation to come back to when I forget in my other four of the obligatory prayers. So I just wanted to say how important that was for me to really, you know, Dr. Yamina often says that we like run away from our fears and our worries and our vulnerabilities, which is true. Oh, look. So being able to actually admit them and bring them, I forget the exact words, but it was like here it is, the courts. I like the word court. To the court of an all-powerful one of glory. For me, that was such an all compassionate. Have a halakha. You want to have a halakha too? Yes. Okay. An all compassionate, all beauteous one.
He's our friend in halakha, mashallah.
Okay, here you can wear one. I felt like it was such a beautiful way to. She could just put it in the No one put me. This is me touching the halakha. That's what one do.
So nice. So nice.
I'll just share that for Fajr. Dhuhr, do only one and one, okay? For Dhuhr, what I found was like, Nursi said something about we realize all of the bounty, something about like how we realize all of the gifts that are done unto us. And I felt like it was such a beautiful way for me to remember, like, astaghfirullah, I thought I was the doer sometime between Fajr and Dhuhr. And I forgot that these were bounties that were done unto me. So again, it was a chance to check in, and then at the court of the true bestower of bounties. That's what the second, a couple sentences down, Isra. It says, clasping one hands at the court of the true bestower of bounties. So that was sort of my self-regulation for Dhuhr prayer. Like, I thought I was the doer, but astaghfirullah, I'm going to actually take all of those things that got done between Fajr and Dhuhr that were done unto me, and I'm going to sort of correct that alignment through istighfar. I'll just pause now so the little one can go to sleep and maybe someone else can share. Otherwise, I can also share my asr reflections.
No, I can share something which came to my mind regarding prayers being prescribed 5 times a day. I was talking to a friend, and she's a revert, and she was trying to understand why 5 times a day. Other religions don't have that much strictness, and they don't have to commit to, and the time also keeps changing along the year. That was her a challenge she was feeling about. Like, being from the medical background, I said, your doctor prescribes you medicine. Sometimes he says, this medicine you have to take 3 times a day. Some he says you have to take 2 times a day. So for every medicine, there is a half-life. Once the body metabolizes it, then you have to replenish it with next dose. So I said, the one who created us, he knows our needs, and he knows the frequency which he has put in us. Like, we will need that half-life for once our lives, that much only. It boosts you, and then he knows the time when we will be needing. And I think Zohar time is the most, Zohar and Asr are the prime times where we are running. And subhanallah, here also in this Nursi Rahimullah, he also says, that's the time, is the highest time for pressure of work, where spirit needs and it seeks a pause. So I was just relating that to her, and to bring both the analogy of the medicine, the one who gave us as a prescription. That's why it's called prescribed prayers, basically. Literally, it's a prescription for us, subhanallah. So that was my reflection, and just wanted to share that.
MashaAllah. Thank you.
And if I can add to what Ziba has just shared, and mashallah, Sarah's sharing was beautiful as well. And when Ziba said, in the medicine analogy, when the medicine is metabolized and you need the next dose, I was reflecting on how in the winter the prayer times get so close. And I used to think that, it's too close to each other. There's Dhuhr and then Asr and Maghrib. They come sometimes as the day gets longer, shorter and shorter in the winter. Like within 3-4 hours, you need to do the 3 prayers. And for a while, I used to think it's too much. But then, of course, when you look back, it can't be too much. Our Creator knows us. So I'm still reflecting. I don't know. But is there something about the season changing and the night falling quicker that our soul needs these doses more closer to each other? I don't know. This is a side note. When Ziba shared that I've been thinking about this. There must be something in sun setting earlier in the winter, and then the prayers are also getting so closed that there must be a wisdom for our soul's need.
Well, in what we learned in the 9th word, it was nothing to do with how long the time interval between the prayers is. It was directly, like the wisdom that was emphasized, was directly to do with the changing in the day, like from darkness to light in the morning, and from light to darkness in the evening, and in the middle when we are very busy and things like that. So it was nothing to do with how long or how short it was, although that may also be a factor.
Yeah. So there must be something in the fact that in the winter, the sun sets earlier, and dhuhr, and then the day gets older quicker. That if I focus more on that, then it won't feel like it's too much, too close to each other, because
because in life,
yeah,
there are beings that their lifespan is longer. There are things and beings much longer than human beings, but there are others that are so short-lived, like some insects or some butterflies or birds. Or so it's the clock parable is, for me, that's really, really very powerful, because the whole thing is not about short or long, because short or long at the end of the day is very relative to our state of mind, our focus, our concentration or not.
Well, even our age, like when we are young, which was, that's like the summertime in one of the metaphors, it looks so long, like it feels like, of course, everyone have their own circumstances, but it feels like, especially if you're healthy, it feels like when you're young that there's this unending life and things are eternal and you are eternal. But as you get older, then you realize that, wow, so many people I know has passed away and life is actually so short. Like,
and the clock is all about reminding us of that, of the transience of this world, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So in winter, we are more likely to remember the transience if we are focused. So maybe it's a time, it's like in Ramadan, like a special time to like gain that momentum of nurturing that awareness. And so in winter, like it's an opportunity to, because it gets dark quickly, so the day is very short-lived, so we are more aware of time passing, of transience of the day, of things, and so it's a time to sustain that with the prayer being closer to each other. Makes sense. It's like if we are really present in the prayer, it's going to nurture and heighten that awareness. And so it'll be when it'll give us a momentum for spring, and especially for summer, when we become lazier and it seems like the days forever, it doesn't end at all, it's so long. And the time between the prayer also, there is a much wider lapse between the two, so we're more likely to forget. Of course, this is all assuming that it's like the main thing, like the Salatu Imad ad-Din, it's like the main pillar. But in fact, we are not supposed to rely only on prayer, because in between, everything is supposed to remind us of that. Everything is an ayah. Everything is making tasbihat. So, yeah. So it doesn't, if we're doing the real thing 24/7, we won't feel it's too much, it's too often, the time in between is too short, too long. That will become not really, I feel like, the focus. But as a wisdom, as a hikmah, you can see a hikmah in it, I think. Wallahu a'lam. What do you think?
Inshallah, yes. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it makes sense. Anyone else would like to share their experience of prayer through this text?
If not, we can go again and read slowly.
Okay, so where shall we read from? The very beginning of fifth point?
Yes, why not?
I think we discussed the first paragraph.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So
And then there is the wisdom in each time.
Yeah.
And Ziba mentioned the paragraph of Dhuhr. It says that the time of Dhuhr, just past these days, the time of the day's zenith and the start of its decline. But we're not aware that it's the start of the decline, because it's just at the very top. The sun is at the very top. So we are totally, it's like, this is right the day. The time when daily labors approach their achievement. The time, well, not really here. It depends where you are and what kind of work you do. The time of a short rest from the pressures of work. This is true for everyone. When the spirit, so here it's all about the spirit. The spirit needs this. This is food for the spirit. So when Zeba was talking about like the analogy of medicine, I feel like it's more like food. It's food, it's nourishment for the soul, just like the body needs air and food, and the heart needs all kinds of it. It needs peace and safety and friendship and love and compassion. The spirit needs this, needs everything to be permanent and lasting, and this certainty, to have this point of support that we discussed in the 33 windows, in the 33rd word. When the spirit needs a pause from the heedlessness and insensibility caused by toil. And it's true that sometimes we're so focused on the work that we forget about everything else. And so this is really, you feel alhamdulillah that there is salat, because it brings you back to reality. In a time divine bounties are manifested, anyone may understand then how fine and agreeable, how necessary and appropriate it is for the human spirit, for the ruh, to perform the midday prayer, the Dhuhr prayer, which means to be released from the pressure, shake off the heedlessness. This is really, really true, at least for me, and leave behind those meaningless transient things, because those transient things, whatever we are doing, everything has an aspect that looks to the beautiful names of God, and therefore to lastingness, to meaning, but often we forget about that aspect, and we get drowned into the transient aspect of things, the worldly aspect of things. And so this is a shake off from that heedlessness and leave behind those, because the transient aspect of things is meaningless because it is transient, because it has no true future, because it lasts only in the now that is flowing. And it's like, it's an illusion that we are trying to hold on, unless we remember the true source and how that thing with its transience, with its impermanence, is acting as an ayah, a signpost to the endless permanent source, and making tasbih. And so our heart, our attachment is not to the thing, but to where it's coming from and where it is pointing to. And we start making tasbih together with it, by means of it, through our interaction with it. And clasping one's hand at the court of the true bestower of bounties, the true generous one, the true, all those blessings that we are running after, they are meaningless in themselves. What we need is the true gifter, the true bestower, the true generous one, the eternally self-subsistent one, to offer praise and thanks for all his gifts and seek help from him, not from those gifts, from those things. We are attached to them in a way that we're seeking their help, we're seeking happiness, joy, fulfillment through them, as if they were the givers, as if they were the sources. Astaghfirullah.
Dr. Yamina, there's it's so interesting that there is, and meaningful, that there is so much transience, reference to transience in
whole thing is about, the clock is all about transience.
Yeah, everything passing, and even at the dhuhr.
Oh, look, I always repeat this: unless we stay with transience, unless transience is a reality in our life here and now, always 24/7, there is no way we can live and experience the ayat, the glorification, and be in the presence of the Eternal One. Because it means we are living in the delusion or in the illusion that things are permanent in their own, and so our relationship to the world becomes an illusion. It is horizontal. There is no such a thing as horizontal. They are not there. They're flowing. We can only connect vertically. Of course, this is a metaphor because it's not vertical really. It means beyond, to the eternal bestower, provider of everything. Yeah, thank you for pointing that again, because we could not emphasize this enough.
Yeah, because I used to think it's about, the Asr prayer, the day is starting to get, closer to ending, but no, it's not Asr, it's in Dhuhr, it's, all prayers actually is a connection to transience. And there's this verse that you always refer to.
Yes.
كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه. So when you were explaining that, things become meaningful if we find the connection to beautiful names, and that's only possible when we realize that these things that we like, we desire, we seek power from, and so on, all of them is actually only a pointer to the source of power and beauty, the beautiful names, and that will happen through recognizing transience. كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه.
Yes.
Everything perishes except his countenance, his face, literally his face, his countenance.
And that's when we sincerely, from our hearts, we really offer, because we feel the more we appreciate something, we love something, and we stay with that, that love, that appreciation is going to fill our hearts. And so we offer the praise and thanks for all gifts and seek help from him. We can seek help from him only, not from anything else. And through bowing to display one's impotence, one's weakness and powerlessness before his glory and tremendousness, and to prostrate in sajda and proclaims one's wonder and love and humility. One who does not understand this is not a true human being, in the sense that our humanity won't be fulfilled. The purpose of our humanity won't be fulfilled. We will be living, as it says in the Quran, like an animal. The ruh, what makes us different from other beings, living beings, is the ruh. And here we're speaking to the ruh. And when we don't identify with the ruh, we are not aware of it, and we suffocate it, and we don't let it express itself, and then we're letting the potential of fulfilling our humanity is not being achieved, not being used. And that's why we feel, and rahmatan, as mercy, we are made to feel something is missing. Like I heard recently, I'm drowning, I'm suffocating, I am dying. Yes, the ruh is calling for help. Like, you're drowning me, you're killing me, let me breathe, let me express myself. And of course, the more we listen to we don't take a stand to question the false beliefs that we built our life on, the more we are actually maybe, I don't know if it's killing, but at least we are not letting the ruh express itself and grow and flourish. As for the time of Asr in the afternoon, so later afternoon, it calls to mind, again, it's recalling, remembering the melancholy season of autumn and the mournful state of old age and the somber period of the end of time. It is also when the matters of the day reach their conclusion, and the time of the divine bounties, divine blessings and gifts, the ni'mah, which have been received that day, like health and well-being and beneficial duties, have accumulated to form a great total, and the time that proclaims through the mighty sun, hinting by starting to sink. We know it's not as warm, for instance. It's getting cooler, the sun is leaving. To sink that man is a guest official, and that everything is transient and inconstant, impermanent. So not only we are transient, everything else is also like us. It's like the hands of the clock. Everything that we are so, spending so much emotions and efforts and our life, like our days and life, and if we are not using that time, that interaction, that connection with the world, with others, with those relationships, are not transformed into means of tasbih and hamd and takbir, they are not means of getting beyond the transient, then it's meaningless and has no result and no purpose. Because any purpose that is not lasting, is not true, is not meaningful, and cannot, not meaningful, only intellectually, more so emotionally and spiritually. It will live in us like a big black hole that nothing can fill. Only permanence can fill it. That's why being aware of transience is so important, because it sets right our connection with the transient, as transient. And it sets us on the path to find the permanent through and we will be able to see how transient beings and the flow of transience is pointing and indicating and showing and reflecting and leading us, guiding us to find the permanent source. That's why it's so important. Now the human soul desires eternity and was created for it, was created for eternity. It worships benevolence and is pained by separation. Our fear of death is because we are created with this strong desire for permanence and eternity, and because we worship, or because we are pained by separation. Thus, anyone who is truly a human being may understand what an exalted duty, what an appropriate service, what a fitting way to repay a debt of human nature. Indeed, what an agreeable pleasure it is to perform the afternoon prayer. For by offering supplications to the eternal court of the everlasting, pre-eternal, and you see all the names here, the eternal, the everlasting, what we are longing for, because in the background of transience, he's emphasizing the names of God related to his being everlasting and eternal, the eternally self-subsistent one. It has the meaning of taking refuge in the grace of unending, infinite mercy, and by offering thanks and praise in the face of innumerable bounties, blessings, ni'mah, of humbly bowing before the mightiness of his rububiyah, his dominicality, or his lordship, sustainership, and by prostrating in utter humility before the everlastingness. You see the emphasis on everlasting, because as a contrast to the transience. And this everlastingness, we will appreciate it so much. And in sajda, we will be really in bliss to the extent that we accept and experience the transience of everything. But if we live in the heedlessness and pretending as if things are not transient or are partially transient, and try to forget about that reality, then we will not feel the need for the everlastingness. And that's why the message of the Quran, the presence of God, the akhirah, the belief in akhirah, here and now, don't feel like something special. They don't bring anything in our heart, in our soul. That we don't feel how healing they are, how much joy and peace and satisfaction and itmi'nan they bring to us, because we are not here. We're trying to hide away from the reality of transience. So I cannot emphasize enough. And if I know that many times before I shared passages in the Quran that emphasize the transience and then the ayah, because it is because of its transience that I know it's an ayah. Otherwise, I don't know. Otherwise, I don't need an ayah. I don't need an ayah to anything. I'm happy with my life. And I feel that emptiness and that meaninglessness and that something is missing, but I don't relate it to anything going on in my life. I think that something is missing. The relationship is missing, or the quality of the relationship is missing, or the house is missing, or the size of the house is not fine, or the career, or this or that, and we remain that's the darkness of shirk, the illusion of shirk. We live in a bubble of delusion. Like, even if they gave us everything we asked for, they are all transient. They cannot, and they are all being created, and they have no way to make us happy or unhappy. It is us with our perception of them, with our stories about, if I have this, I will be happy, so I'm unhappy now. When I get it, then I'll say it's because something else. Now I need something else. It's an unending life of pain and misery, and feeling always something is missing. The time of Maghrib at sunset, I'm carrying on if no one is, I thought some were going to share with us, but so I will carry on reading, inshallah, if you don't mind. Bismillah. The time of Maghrib at sunset recalls the disappearance amid sad farewells of the delicate, lovely creatures of the world, the worlds of summer and autumn at the start of winter. It calls to mind the time when, through his death, man will leave all those he loves in sorrowful departure and enter the grave. It brings to mind when all the death of this world, amid the convulsions of its death agonies, all its inhabitants will migrate to other worlds, and the lamp of this place of examination will be extinguished, the sun. It is a time, because the sun is also was born and will die, has a beginning and has an end. It is a time which gives stern warning to those who worship transient, ephemeral beloveds. It is a warning to those who worship transient, ephemeral beloveds. Worship here means they love them as though they were the source of the lovability that we see in them, that they reflect. Thus, at such time, for the Maghrib prayer, a man's spirit, which by its nature is a mirror desirous for an eternal beauty, turns its face towards the throne of mightiness of the eternal, undying one, the enduring, everlasting one, who performs these mighty works and turns and transforms these huge worlds, and declaring, Allahu Akbar, God is most great, over these transient beings, withdraws from them. Man clasps his hand in service, like in worship, of his Rabb, his sustainer, his Lord, and rises in the presence of the enduring eternal one. And through saying, all praise be to God, Alhamdulillah, he praises and extols his faultless, God's faultless perfection, his peerless beauty, because what we love is something that is beautiful. That's our beloveds. And the beloved, the true beloved, is the enduring, eternal one. His peerless, his faultless perfection, his peerless beauty, his infinite mercy, through declaring, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين, you alone, from you alone you alone do we worship, and from you alone we seek help. He proclaims his worship for and seeks help from his unassisted dominicality, Rububiyyah, his unpartnered Godhead, Uluhiyyah, his unshed. Uluhiyyah looks to the essence of God. Rububiyyah looks to his beautiful names, his unshared sovereignty. Then he bows, and through declaring together with all the universe his weakness and impotence, his weakness and powerlessness, his poverty, his neediness and baseness, before the infinite majesty, the limitless power and utter mightiness of the enduring eternal one, he says, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, all glory to my mighty sustainer, and glorifies his sublime sustainer, his Rabb, and Rabbahul A'la. And prostrating before the undying beauty of his essence, his unchanging sacred attributes, his constant everlasting perfection, these are all in contrast to the transient ephemeral beloveds. They
And
can,
also our own weakness and
Man proclaims his love and worship in wonder and self-abasement. He finds an all-compassionate eternal one. And through saying all glory to my exalted sustainer, Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, he declares his most high sustainer to be free of decline, and decline, everything else decline just like Maghrib. He is free from decline, exalted above any fault. Then he testifies, makes shahada to God's unity and the prophethood of Muhammad والسلام, peace and blessings be upon him. He sits and on his own account offers as a gift to the undying, all beauteous one, the enduring, all glorious one, the blessed salutation. We make tashahhud and we say salatu wassalam on the blessed salutations and benedictions of all creatures. We in the tashahhud, we say Tahiyyatu lillah. Yeah. So tahiyyat of everything, the salutation of everything belongs to God alone. And through greeting God's most noble messenger, we say salam alayka. He renews his allegiance, the person praying to him, and proclaims his obedience to his commands, like walking in his path. In order to renew and illuminate his faith, his iman, he observes the wise order in this palace of the universe and testifies to the unity of the all glorious maker. And he testifies to the messengership of Muhammad the Arabian, alayhi salatu wassalam, peace and blessings be upon him, who is the herald of the sovereignty of God's rububiyyah, the proclaimer of those things pleasing to him, and the interpreter of the signs and verses of the book of the universe. To perform the Maghrib prayer is this. So how can someone be considered a human being who does not understand what a fine and pure duty is the prayer at sunset? What an exalted and pleasurable act of service. What an agreeable and pleasing act of worship. What a serious matter, and what an unending conversation and permanent happiness it is in this transient guest house. You're in a transient guest house, but you have a telephone. From time to time, you call the true beloved who is in the permanent residence. If you truly are here and we truly renew our awareness of transience, then we will renew our need. We'll become aware. Actually, we don't renew it. We'll become aware of our need for permanence. And we truly, anything that leads us to permanence, not only salat, the tasbihat, the, meditating with the creation, praising God with the creation, experiencing the beautiful names through interacting in the creation are all means to reconnect to the endless, unending, permanent source, because the world, the realm of permanence exists here and now. How do we know? Through the transience. The transience is pointing to it. They're coming from somewhere permanent and going back to there. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And so that flow itself becomes the means of remembering. In the beginning, we run away from it, we avoid it because it's so painful. But if we stay a little bit, we are patient, stay a little bit with the pain, the reward is immense.
Dr. Yamina, I also wanted to highlight here the way the Prophet ﷺ is mentioned in the honor of Mawlid al-Nabi, the Prophet's birthday week or month. I have heard a number of people trying to talk about how Prophet is important, and in some of the WhatsApp messages that I got, and it was more like, he was so nice to his neighbors, he was so nice to other people, he was loving, he was forgiving, he was just, and he was charitable, and so on. And
there's so many people who are like this. You don't have to be a prophet.
Yeah, and then also there are a number of people who do these things, and they're agnostic. They don't even believe. They're not even sure there's a God. So it doesn't mean that these are not part of what we are called to do. The Prophet ﷺ did call us to be more compassionate, more just, and so on. But I read a list and I was so disappointed. It only listed these things about the Prophet, nothing else. And yet that's only part of what he brought to us. Here, the way it's described here, the messenger of the Prophet Muhammad, the Arabian alayhi salam, he is the one who talks to us about rububiyyah. He is the one who talks to us about how to connect with him.
This is the gist of his message that makes him different from other good, wise people.
Yeah, and interpreters of the signs and verses of the book of the universe to understand how the universe is pointing, is signifying. As you say this, I mean, this is from the Holocaust, but I just want to,
These are the characteristic of his risala, of his messengership, because Muhammad is a human being. So what you shared is also okay. He is you can say he's a wise person, a good person, just like we know some wise, nice, compassionate people. But that does not look to his messengership. Just because he is nice and wise, we don't follow the teaching of anyone who is compassionate. The messengership looks to this. We say, Abduhu wa Rasuluh. It's not even Abduhu wa Rasuluh, because there it will be still his ubudiyah. No, it's like he's bashar. He's being a bashar. Which is true, but that's not what makes him the messenger of God. his risala, this is the meaning of his risala. And that's why we follow the teaching, because he's the messenger, not because of something else.
And it's very interesting that in the salah, in that daily prayer, at the final, in the sitting that we mentioned the Prophet ﷺ, as if it's kind of as a reminder to ourselves that all of these meanings about everything is passing, but there's the face of the Eternal One, and we are connected to this wise and glorious Maker. All of this is brought to us through, or sent to us through the Prophet ﷺ. So when we sit in the final sitting or midway through, we mention the Prophet and we say Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, all the prophets, may God's peace and blessings be on you. And here it's beautiful. It says you're greeting God's most noble messenger and renewing your allegiance to him. So when we say Assalamu alayka, we're not just saying hi, Assalamu alaikum. We are actually renewing our allegiance to the Prophet ﷺ. You are the one who taught us.
To his teaching, it means.
Yeah.
We are aware of the messengership and we are following this path. Yeah, true. Thank you.
And the other thing that you already emphasized, that I wanted to emphasize one more time, that this is about our being human, which means prayer, worship is a culmination or a flourishing of our human nature. It isn't a burden. It is not, whenever it feels like a burden, oh, I need to pray again, we can, inshallah, remember and
have to revise.
Yeah,
what's going on. It's a red light, something.
Yeah, sometimes children think it's a duty or a burden to eat because they're distracted, they're not aware of their need to eat.
Yeah.
It sometimes happens with
or they are having too many junk food, and it cuts the appetite, and also it makes you seek more sugar and things like that.
Yeah. Just in a simple level, sometimes when my son is playing video games, he forgets he's hungry. So when I call him in the middle of the game, he's like, no, I'm not interested. But the moment he turns off, he's like, oh my God, I'm starving. And then when he's not distracted, actually, then being invited for food, he loves it. He comes running, yes, I'm ready to eat food. But if he's distracted from his hunger, it feels like a duty. Oh man, like I have to go eat. He tells his friends on, they're connected on the video. He's like, oh man, I need to go. I'll be right back. Like as if going to eat is a burden, because at that point, I mean, I'm just using this as a metaphor for us, because when we think, oh, it's time to pray, or I didn't finish my work, oh man, like I need to make wudu and pray now. Like it feels a burden because we don't recognize our need, and I love it, and inshallah we can live this. I can live this and feel this more, that these connections are made between being human and wanting to prostrate, being human and wanting to connect with our Creator, because that way religion is not some kind of a burden on us. And this is, when we were talking about the Sunday school project, this is one of the things we want to also pass on to our children. The way we teach religion is not like everybody's normal human being, and on top of that, we as Muslims have to do some additional things. It's like religion of God is a flourishing of our humanity, and prayer is a way of responding to how we are and how the world is. It's the best response to it. In a way, inshallah, we can nurture that and feel that and also pass it on. And then one more thing, in Surah Baqarah, there is a verse that says, Ya ayyuhas annas a'budu. And Imam Nursi in his Isha'atu Ijaz spends time on this verse and other parts of the Risale as well. It simply says, all human beings, or all people sometimes translated as, or all human beings worship. And there he sees that connection between being human and worshiping. We usually take it as like, oh, God told people to worship. But actually, no, Ya ayyuhan nas a'budu means that is the core of being human. All human beings worship.
So we read the whole thing and we forget, because it says, Ya ayyuhan nas u'budu rabbakum. And we say, u'budu rabbakum. Yes, but before rabbakum, there is u'budu. It means human being, u'budu. And then you will find, it means you are created for ibadah, and then you have to focus on your right object of worship. Because what it means everyone is worshiping. This is the fitrah of human being. We created in a state of worshiping. Everyone worships. You can't say I'm not worshiping. Everyone has a God, but we can worship false gods or the true God. So we have, the focus is on, you are already worshiping. Now how do we worship? Who do we worship? Right? Because the ayah, he does not, usually, I'm not sure about the translation, but in the original, he does not put وَعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ. He said, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اعْبُدُوا. Stop, pause here. You need ibadah. You are already a worshipper. You need to worship correctly, to worship the correct object of worship, the real. And then it makes sense to carry on. اعْبُدُوا رَبَّكُمْ الَّذِي. If I remember correctly.
Yes, I think in the words it says
Salam alaikum.
so Arbudu.
Salam.
This ayah, Ya ayyuhan nas ubudu, we can't say Ya ayyuhan nas ubudu and we stop, because there is no meaning. We have to finish. يا أيها الناس اعبدوا ربكم الذي خلقكم والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. الهدف, the goal for this ibadah is taqwa, to fear Allah, to anything you want to do, you have the presence of Allah. Allah is here. So you can't lie, you can't do this and this. If you have this, always you are living with the damir, you're conscious that Allah is here. So that is the ibadah here. Abudu, for what? Why? لعلكم تتقون, to fear, to feel and to feel the presence of Allah in everything.
That's true, but that's at the very end. From the beginning, you have to build one by one, otherwise we will be, every time we use taken for granted things and then build on them. We're talking about taqwa when most people don't know what ibadah is, don't know who their Rabb is, or their true Rabb, because we have other Rabbs. Money is important, reputation is important, career is important. Everyone has a different Rabb.
Yes.
Yeah, you see, so we have to build one by one by one by one. First, we have to know what is ibadah, so that I will know that this is worship. So who am I worshiping? Oh, I find that I'm worshiping all kinds of things that are transient, as we are reading, that can't benefit me, that can't even, but it's not easy to let go. We say, yes, but I'm not worshiping them. They are important. but you are spending all your life for them. And then it says, Rabbakum, and who is your Rabb? It describes who is your Rabb. Alladhi khalaqakum. Most people, we talk the name of God, we talk the most about, at least growing up, I didn't know much about the names of God, is Al-Khaliq. Yet, we don't really know what khalaqani means. I used to not think, because we don't really pause and stop and reflect and think, but very vaguely, we have an idea of khalaqani means like sometime, maybe when I was born. Afterwards, where is my khaliq? I'm growing myself, or the mothers and the parents think they are raising their children, and maybe someone who is an atheist who may think they ate good food, look how he's taller, or something like this. Khalaqakum stays at the very beginning. Or maybe some people may go, he created Adam, and now we are coming from one to the other. People are, so khalaqakum is so vague. Here and now, he is creating us. This needs education. Otherwise, we won't need really the Quran. All the religions before say something more or less the same. They teach the same thing, more or less. If we go like this, very general. But if we go, Imam Nursi rahimahullah, he goes like word by word. Stop. Ya ayyuhan nas. He's not saying Ya ayyuhal mu'minin, Ya ayyuhal muslimin. No. People. So it means me right now as a human being. U'budu. First, what is ibadah? Then Rabbakum. And not any Rabb, because we have other Rabbs. That's why he says, Rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum.
But excuse me, Amina. This ayah comes after Allah taught in Surah Al-Baqarah, describe 3 kinds of people: believers, non-believers, and the munafiqeen.
Yes.
And finally, he said Nas. Nas, those described before. Al-munafiq, al-kafir, al-mu'min. This is Nas.
Yes.
Now it's Nas. The message is for Nas.
It means that in any case, do you think this is one thing that when we read the Quran, at least this is something I believe, and it's not only Imam Nursi, but many who, and I believe it's true because it makes sense, the Quran is for whoever is reading it, not for some kafir out there. Primarily, the Quran doesn't address the atheists, yet it addresses people who believe in God, but with shirk, but with nifaq, but with other things. And it means all those things can be found within me. Otherwise, why would Allah talk about it to me? So what I'm saying is, let's not take Iman and Islam and knowing things each time for granted, because if each time I take it for granted, when do we build it then? When do we nurture it then?
Now we are nurturing. That's why Allah prescribed for us Salah, because the Salah will help us to reach that taqwa. Because what is the goal of Salah? It's taqwa. What is the goal of fasting? It's taqwa. We are building our taqwa. With what? The skills is praying. You have to perform your prayer.
Yes.
More you do it good, you get that taqwa. Fasting help you, sadaqah help you. All what we are doing.
Yeah. That's all correct. I'm saying, how does it help you? How does it nurture taqwa?
How? Because when I am praying, صلي لذكري الصلاة لذكر الله سبحانه وتعالى. When I pray, I remember Allah. If you remember Allah, you remember awamir. When Allah said to do this and not do this, that is for me remembering Allah. I'm remembering Allah means I put Allah in my mind. What am I doing? Is it okay or not okay? My salah helps me to do that, because praying, really praying, after I finish that prayer, I remember that Allah wants me to do. I remember Allah. Once you remember Allah, you are like يعني يقظة, يعني you pay attention to what you are doing. Of course, we are human beings. I can pray today, it's okay. Tomorrow, it's not okay. But Allah wants me to do that. Al-ijtihad. Keep doing until you get that yaqeen and taqwa. And that's it. I think this is the experience of life.
I just want to add something that, what you described is only one of the many names of God, the one who gives us command and we obey, the Sharia, who gives us guidelines and we obey, and we forget and we remember to obey, and it's a journey. But that's one of the names of God. I mean, in here, as you noted, like there are other names, the eternal one, the beautiful one, the powerful one, the one from whom we seek help, the one who is generous. So all of these beautiful names are also something that we are in need of seeing and reflecting and remembering, and then expressing our, as Yamina has been saying, gratitude and awe and prostrating. So prostrating, yes, of course, part of it is we're obeying and or remembering to obey his commands. But that's part of it. That's not the whole thing, right?
What about this ayah? Allah said, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. What do you think about this ayah?
Ibadah, that worship includes being at all.
It's not worship. Here it's not worship. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ means feel that they are slave. Once you are submitted to Allah, you will do everything Allah asks you. Slave. The meaning of abd here.
عبودية.
Yes, عبودية جاءت من عبد. العبود. When you have your master, you just want to please him.
But Sister Latifa, don't you think that's one interpretation of ibad and a very limited interpretation? Of course, we all know Arabic here. We all know ibadah comes from abd, right? But we also know that the Quran has transformed these words into just simply being a slave, or simply just only obeying. There's why is there tasbih and takbir and tahmid, all of these, if this is just about obeying?
That it's
I don't want to get into the argument. It's not right to get into argument on these kind of matters, but I just wanted to kind of note that I feel like some of the things you're saying is aspect of
you say something. Something
expressing them as if this is it, and anything other than that is actually you don't get it. You don't know the Arabic. It's not the case. Yamina is Arabic.
Not question of Arabic.
Yeah, but
I am not Arab. I am Mazighiya. You know, it's not Arabic. The language of the Quran, it's lisan Arabi. The meaning is in the Quran. Some Arabs, they don't understand this Arabic.
But today, talking about the Quran right now, like, do you think in these texts we're not talking about the Quran and its meaning?
No, you don't get it.
I get it. We've been talking about ibadah for many years.
I have to know who is talking with me first.
And yeah, I really don't want to argue, so I'll pause here.
I'm talking Quran. I say the ayah. What does it mean, this ayah? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْإِنسَ وَالْجِنَّ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. أما the أسماء الله الحسنى by that all helps you to get to that taqwa. All that just the object, يعني the destination is that taqwa. And when you reach that taqwa, that's it, done. Everything Allah said is doing, you do. Don't do, you don't do. There is no hawa. There is no.
Thank you. This is when we read, whether it's the Quran, but especially the Quran, whatever we read, we understand something. That understanding becomes our interpretation. And especially with the Quran, it has, each ayah is coming from the eternal Rabb, our creator. So it cannot have only one meaning. That's what an ayah means. It means it points to endless meanings, and all of them, as long as they don't contradict the overall meaning of the Quran, and they don't contradict the literal meaning, then they are all welcome. So it does not mean that only one interpretation is correct. They could be complementary, and they could be something is more, how do you say, wider, deeper. Even in the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, like, each ayah has an outer meaning, an inner meaning, a deeper meaning, a first read meaning. This is all known, and it doesn't apply only to the Quran, but even more so to the Quran. So everyone is free to be, how do you say, satisfied with one reading, and some of us may want to go, your ruh may want something more. And I think the text, and we talked a lot about this when we were reading directly from the Quran, about how to read the Quran, and how the Quran speaks to us, to our ruh, to the extent of our need as well. So whatever the station we are, it's like the same food. It's only a metaphor. I'm not saying it's the same thing. If I'm the same food, I eat it today, I'm not very hungry, I say it's okay. But tomorrow I'm really, really hungry, and I come and I eat the same food, and it tastes so good. So the interpretation is really, it's not we are interpreting. It should be actually, I am reading and waiting and listening. If I'm hungry for guidance, for light, I am waiting, and I hear and listen and wait to be inspired with meanings. And then I get a meaning, and then something deeper and deeper. And personally, how do I know that this makes even more sense? Because it contains the others, and it is deeper, and often it's going to make more sense of the relationship or the connection between the different ayats in the surah. Sometimes they look almost like they are not connected, and the deeper you go, at a deeper level, you see how connected they are. Does it mean that the first reading was not correct? Not at all. Not at all. It's just that we have different needs, and therefore we ask for more if we need more. And if someone has the same need, they will take it. If not, they will not. And also we have like a metaphor that I read by also a Muslim, not, I wouldn't say scholar, although he's a scholar also, but mufakkir, let's say thinker and mu'min, rahimahullah. So he says like the heart and the soul are like a vessel. If the wider, the bigger the vessel, the more what comes of rahmatan lil alameen, of meaning, of inspiration, we can hold more. whatever our station is, only God knows. Inshallah. So I'll just go briefly on, just to remind ourselves what he's saying about the time of Isha. And then, inshallah, this will be the end of the 9th word. And I was going to go and start with the 12th word because the 10th is about akhirah. And it's very long because iman bil akhirah and certainty, yaqeen bil akhirah is so important. But I thought it's too long, maybe another time. The 11th word we did. So I was intending to do the 12th word, but now I'm wondering if we do something about the meaning of death because of someone asking about it, inshallah. If you have any thing to share, if you are interested or not interested, you can let me know, inshallah. Bismillah. At the time of Isha, at nightfall, the last traces of the day remaining on the horizon disappear, and the world of night unfolds the universe. By the way, this 9th word is not about salat, but about the hikmah, the wisdom in the time of the salat. There is another word about the salat. And the world of night unfolds the universe as the all-powerful and glorious one, the changer of night and day. You see how everything that's going on is something that is relating us to God and making us know him from a different perspective. Because when we say Allah, it may mean different things to different people. I mean, a Christian who speaks Arabic, an Arab Christian, will say Allah as well, but their understanding could be totally different, and even among Muslims. And someone who never reflected and did no work and doesn't know exactly who God is, but fitratan, we know there must be something. Yes, but that something, that power, that creator, although we don't really know what creator means because it's very vague, who is going, that is Allah. So Allah is like an empty set in the beginning. It's not clear, it's vague. There must be a God. But Iman, cultivating Iman through Shahada, through observing the universe, confirming, experiencing, witnessing and experiencing the names of God, getting to know him to the extent that our heart is filled with certainty of Iman, and then we live in his presence, yes, with ihsan. That is a process that is going to, that we are taught in the Quran, and that's why there are so many references to the world, especially because that's where it starts, in the world out there and then within us and together. And because we exist together with the rest of the world, as the more we know God as he describes himself, then when we say Allah, then we will remember something. Then it will have an effect on our heart. Otherwise, as I always say, if we never did the active reflection and how to recognize shirk and how to reject it, the subhanallah, the tasbih, and reject shirk, then without realizing I am in shirk. The shirk means I'm attributing the names, the qualities of God to other things. It means I don't know God. I'm saying Allah or God or whatever language, but I don't really know him, and my heart does not really feel. So I can pray as much as I want. It won't make much difference. For instance, the very, very simple example that I give all the time because it's simple. otherwise I would have, if in another example, we'd have to spend too much time, is water. And it's an example given in the Quran. We say water, God created water, he created me, he gives life with water. But in my heart, how does it feel? What I feel is my reality, not what I say with my tongue or claim. We are told in the Quran, for instance, that it is we, God, who sends water from the sky. How does it feel to me? Does it feel like water is coming itself? But I know I am a Muslim, I'm a believer, therefore it must be God sending it. That's adding on top. It's mud. Mud is the shirki belief that water is coming from the sky. That's how it feels in my heart. And then I add chocolate of Tawheed on top. I am a Muslim. It must be God. I have not made the tahqiq. I have not confirmed. I cannot witness that truly, Sadaqallahu al-Azim. This ayah is telling the truth because I witnessed it. Only God could be sending this. It's the same with water. Water, I don't water my plants, and after a week or so, especially for peace lilies, in few days you see them like they're asking for water. And in the heart, unless we did the work, it would feel that you put water, and with the peace lilies, very quickly, the leaves are alive again. So it feels like it's water doing it. It feels, but I know it's God. Astaghfirullah. If it feels that it's doing it, then I have to stop and do the subhanahu work. This water, lifeless water, how can it give life? It cannot give life. Water, with its lifelessness, is making tasbih. And I say it is me in my ghafla that I was not paying attention. Look, water is speaking to me. With its lifelessness, it's saying, how come you're feeling like this? I have no power, no eyes, no feet, no hands. We are told in Surah Al-Araf, I have no life. How can I give? I don't know anything about this plant. I have no power to do this. And I have to go through this reasoning. And then in my heart says, yes, I have witnessed La muhyiya illallah. There is no giver of life except the one who knows everything, who has power over everything, who has the source of life, who alone is the living one, because everything else is born and dies. They cannot give life to anything else. They are themselves in need of being sustained in life. Even the lifeless water is in need of being sustained in existence. لا يخلقون شيئا وهم يخلقون. They cannot create anything because they themselves are being created. So this, I have to do it not once, every time, again and again. When I say subhanahu, when I forget, until my heart, my eye will see lifeless water can do it, and my heart will have the yaqeen that yes, Sadaqallahu al-Azim, he is the one who has control over everything, who is the living, who gives life. He alone can give life with a lifeless water. And so when I water the plant, I won't feel like water is doing it, but I am a Muslim, so it must be God. No. I will make shahada that act of watering will remind me. After a while, it starts reminding me of the source of life. I will say, Ya Muhyi. Because water with its lifelessness is speaking, it's making tasbih, it's proclaiming La ilaha illallah, la muhyiya illallah. This is what we are talking about. Otherwise, if I never do this work, never reject shirk consciously, never learned to make tasbih consciously, never learned to read the ayah that is water and the giving of life, the coming of life of the plant who is wilting, then, or learn how to see that the rain right now is an act of someone who has power over all the universe, the solar system, everything. Then Allah in my mind, in my tasawwur, in my imagination, is very vague. It cannot bring awe and presence in my heart. How can it nurture my taqwa? The seed may be there, but we need to work. This is all we are talking about. How to learn to nurture that seed so that it becomes a reality here and now, and not something we talk about, but something we live, inshallah. So you see here the all-powerful and glorious one, the changer of night and day. That it's not like day, night, day, night, day. You know, someone is changing this, because night, day means the rotation of the earth, the revolution around the sun, all kinds of things that are beyond the power of any created beings are going on. That's why he started with power, glory. Something huge is going on. Someone is doing the work. If there is night and day, the changer of night and day turns the white page of day into the black page of night through the mighty disposal of his rububiyyah. It recalls the divine activities of that all-wise one of perfection. Wise means with wisdom. Things are happening orderly in a way that leads, benefits, in a way that sustains life. The wise one of perfection in a perfect way. The subduer of the sun and the moon, turning the green adorned page of summer into the frigid white page of winter. And with the remaining works of the departed being erased from this world with the passing of time, it recalls the divine acts of the Creator and life and death in the passage to another quite different world. It is a time that calls to mind the disposals of the Creator of the heavens and the earth's awesomeness and the manifestations of his beauty in the utter destruction of this narrow, fleeting, and lowly world, the terrible death agonies of its disease, and in the unfolding of the broad, eternal, and majestic world of the hereafter, and the universe's owner, its true disposer, its true beloved and object of worship, Ma'bud, can only be the one who with ease turns night into day, winter into spring, and this world into the world of Akhirah, the hereafter, like the pages of a book, who writes and erases them and changes them. And all these are stuff taken from the Quran, images taken from the Quran. Thus, at nightfall, man's spirit, which is infinitely impotent, powerless, and weak, and infinitely poor and needy, and plunged into the infinite darkness of the future. We have no idea what will happen, although we want to hide into the knowingness of predictability, as if we can predict. We have a routine, therefore we can predict. But even our predictability is only a probability, because I may not even be here tomorrow, and all my plans and what I think is predictable won't even exist. So predictability is only an area to order and wisdom, but we shouldn't take it as like a reality, an unchanging constant. It is not a constant. Thus, at nightfall, man's spirit, which is infinitely powerless and weak, and infinitely poor and needy, and plunged into the infinite darkness of the future, and tossed around amid innumerable events, performs the Isha prayer, the night prayer, which has this meaning, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, man says, I love not those that sat, la uhibbul afilin. And through the prayers, he seeks refuge at the court of an undying ma'bud, object of worship, an eternal mahbub, beloved one. And in this transient world and fleeting life and dark world and black future, he supplicates an enduring, everlasting one, al-Baqi. And for a moment of unending conversation, a few seconds of immortal life, it is worth everything, because transient means zero at the end, but few seconds of immortal means immortal. He asks to receive the favors of the all-merciful and compassionate, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, one's mercy, his rahmah, and the light of his guidance, the nur of his hidayah, which will strew light on his world and illuminate his future. Tomorrow, I have no idea what's going to happen, but it is, I'm sure of one thing. He is wise, and whatever he creates is wisdom. Before my death, after my death, in this world, in the next world, it doesn't matter. I know that there is wisdom. I know there is rahmah. I know that there is generosity. I know he's all-knowing. He takes care of everything. Everything is under his control. And that's what we need, not to predict particular events. The ruh needs that. And that is for sure when we nurture the iman as we are taught in the Quran. And we do the work, مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. You have not created anything in vain. I never do any tafakkur or anything as if things are just there in my perception, or the perception of someone who doesn't know God is the same. But lo and behold, I am a believer and I am a Muslim, and therefore I claim that they are different. That claim has to be confirmed and affirmed. That's why Shahada is so important in Islam. But this Shahada is a true witnessing, true experiencing, not just claiming. So when I say it with words, it will remind me what I lived and I witnessed truly. So it is not perjury. It's not just a claim that I don't know exactly, or it's just like Muslims believe that way. No. Everyone, Iman can't be inherited.
So, Dr. Yamina, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Saira here. I have a question then. As we read this is so helpful. And because I shared with you, and I know that it's very easy to lose track of the beneficence of Allah Ta'ala when we are in the midst of a hardship. So when in Hazrat Yaqub's case, alayhi salam, we see Allah Ta'ala in Quran shares that he said the prayer that, and I only complain to Allah. Or when we hear Hazrat Yusuf also make a lament to Allah Ta'ala?
The one
That
who
one.
was sick is Ayub alayhi salam.
Alayhi salam, sorry, yes.
Ayub.
And so so we have stories of prophets where even Hazrat Asya, even though she doesn't complain, but she says, but God, give me relief from this cruel person, her husband, and make me a home near you. Because in this distress of that level, or even when leprosy took over, one of the prophets, I don't want to misquote their name, they did pray. Most of the times we hear that prophets eventually, even sometimes the Sahaba ended up saying, when will the help of Allah Ta'ala come? So my question is, I want to obviously make sure that I'm able to have that level of training where every hardship that can come in my treatment or in my waiting for a decision around my tests and labs and whatever the decision, they share with me the results, how to keep that level of shukr and alhamdulillah. A logical mind will say that when you hear a sad or bad news about terminal illness, you will say, oh, I'm afraid. I want to come to a level where I can say, Allah Ta'ala, I'm afraid and I don't want to be afraid. So help me there.
It's not, yeah, thank you for the question. This is important. And I think whenever when we talked about Yusuf alayhi salam and many prophets actually in Surah Maryam, and think we emphasize this because usually we have a fantasy-like understanding of Iman that as if they become not human beings and they don't feel anymore like fear or anything, or any desire or anything. And then it seems like, oh, it must be easy for them because they don't feel those things that we feel. And then we say, but he was a prophet and I am not. And then why would Allah, who knows us, talk about those people in the Quran as examples first, and then he tells us that they were like you. If they were like, if we were sending a prophet, a messenger to the angel, we will send an angel. So if he, in order to be a teachers to us, the prophets have to be human like us. So for instance, you receive, someone receives news of a terminal illness. If this person feels nothing, if this person doesn't feel fear, if this person doesn't feel sadness, it's not a human being. We're not talking about human being. A human being will feel sadness and fear. The only difference, or the big difference between the prophet or a prophet or someone who is close to God and knows the higher that certainty of living in the presence of the all compassionate, the difference is in two things, and two of them are related to each other: how long they stay in that state of fear and sadness and grief. And we can stay there for hours, for days, for weeks, for years, for a lifetime. Some people, like these people, we stay shortly. Why? Because that fear, that sadness, they interact with it as an ayah, as a messenger from God. And so the fear, they welcome it in the name of God, and it is the fear that speaks to them. In another way, you can say because of the fear is like reminds us of the need for help, for the source of safety, to take refuge and seek help from God. It's like hunger reminds us that we need food and we appreciate the food. So it's not that we want to shortcut the fear, but that we welcome it, Bismillah, in the name of God, as a messenger from God. And when we welcome it and we listen to it, the fear says, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, he welcomes transience, listens to it, and he says, La uhibbul afilin. I do not like what is transient. Therefore, I am seeking the eternal one. Wherever you are, the enduring one, the eternal one, I seek you. And that's when he received the message, because now he's ready. We are not going to receive the message to be a prophet for the others, but we will receive the message, the guidance pertaining to our situation. So we embrace our weakness, we embrace our fear, in the sense that this fear also is not created for nothing. It is reminding me that I need help. I need how valuable the help of my Rabb, my sustainer, my host, my beloved, my friend. How sweet it is, how valuable it is. We start, and then that fear transforms and it becomes, we revel, we really enjoy, we really like feel like how sweet it is to have a Rabb right now. I really, really need you. I need your help. So
just to add, like this fear unpacking that you've just done, I was thinking of a verse in the Quran when Musa alayhi salam, Moses, is scared when he throws the staff, and in his heart he feels scared, and the verse, and he's told, don't be scared, you're fine, just go ahead and throw.
it means you're fine. We are here. We are.
Yeah. So that fear that he experienced, what became a means through which he
became aware of God's presence with him.
Yeah. I used to think that, oh, even he is scared. Oh, he's like. But as you were talking, it became even more meaningful. That, of course, we are meant to go through fear.
The prophets are not robots. We are not supposed to be, when we are believers, we become robots. Then how would we even appreciate God's presence with us, God's help, God's compassion, and all the things that we need? There will be no way. So that's very human. But the whole difference is how long we stay there. The more certainty we have that God is with me right now, He is, His help, His rahmah, His mercy is all everywhere, is encompassing me, the more certain I am, the more that fear, that sadness, that grief are not going to last long, because they are going to, I will be able to listen to their message, to understand the wisdom, the purpose in their existence in my life. And it's like having the fear is a hunger for safety, for, it depends, fear of what? For instance, sickness and sadness for having this sickness or the pain from it is hunger for health and well-being, so they are all good. And it's healthy to have them. But if it's lasting too long, it means I don't have the certainty of the well-being, the source of the well-being and the health. Then my work is there. My work is not to how do I get rid of the fear? It means I am not sure. And so I have to stay with when I'm healthy, or the part of my body that are healthy. How are they healthy? What does it mean to be healthy? Someone is keeping this body alive. Someone is making me breathe here and now. That's where reflection goes back. And if we know God, even from one perspective, the more we feel it, we know, we nurture that certainty through experiencing the fact. The fact is that right now, I have no control over my breathing. And yet, lo and behold, I am made to breathe. Who is making me breathe? The one who is making me breathe can only be the one who has control over the air, and the air is everywhere. So he has control over wherever the air is going. And the air has connection with all the solar system and everything. He has to have the power over all that. He has the power over my lungs, all my body, everything, every cell in my body. That being is the Rabbul Alameen. He's the sustainer of all world. I would recommend to just stay with observing my breathing and witnessing that the sustainer of my breathing, therefore of my life, the one who is breathing life into me, right now, I am witnessing it, I'm experiencing it, I confirm and affirm and I witness, ashhadu, that he is the creator, the controller of everything. He's Malik al-Mulk, and if he's the one who is making me breathe, he's the one who is making all human beings and all breathing beings breathe. So that power, he is all powerful. And he is making us breathe so easily, so smoothly. He's compassionate, he's generous, he gives us breathing not when we ask. So the more I stay there with this being and feel it in my heart and feel the gratitude, the love, the appreciation, the praise, the more I trust that he can take care of me, and he's taking care of me, and he will take care of me. Only then can I trust him to the extent that I truly know him. Stay only with this. And that fear, that sadness, that grief will, the time will diminish, and because it will take us to someone we know, and we know in a way that we can trust. And we can unload our load, because first, we can't take any load. Second, he is the one who takes care of everything. That time we can really say, Alhamdulillah. And this is not only for our sadness and fear, we can feel for others as well. And only then we can say, like Yaqub alayhi salam, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. God is the best of protectors, because he's the most merciful of mercifuls. He's the most merciful. Or like Ayyub alayhi salam, when he was ill, very ill, he said, Rabbi inni massani ad-durru wa anta arhamur rahimin. God, my sustainer. He doesn't say God, my sustainer. Harm has afflicted me, and you are translated as but he doesn't say but, and it means, and I know you are Arhamur Rahimin. You know, all of them are saying Arhamur Rahimin because in this situation, we need that Rahmah that is all encompassing. It encompasses also all the names of God. So it's okay to have fear. It's created on purpose. It heightens our appreciation and of our need for God, our need for His help, for His rahmah.
Thank you, Dr. Yamina. Thank you so much.
Inshallah, we can stop here. It's already past like 10. If you have anything to say to Saira or in general, please go ahead. It's the end of the 9th word. I'll end with dua, but you can comment if you want after that.
Sister Yamina, when I was reflecting about the night and the morning, like it's the end, and Fajr is a new beginning. So, when you start seeing that way, then every Fajr is a gift. Basically, you start that day with a renewed intention, and the zeba of Isha is no longer there, and so a new person, new opportunity, and new way to look at
infinite
possibilities. Yeah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
So, Sister Maha, are you there?
Let me make the dua and you carry on, inshallah. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wahum anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah warina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. Ameen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, please carry on. If you have anything to share, please do so.
Isra, are you stopping the recording?
Just one quick announcement that inshallah it's confirmed that receiving your annual retreat, winter retreat, will be inshallah in person in the usual Diyanet Center in Lanham, Maryland, December 24 to 27, so 3 nights. And stay tuned for the registration. Inshallah, we're trying to open it soon. And yeah, so stay tuned, inshallah. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yamina, can you remove the shared screen and turn your camera on?